I've been working on my Triumph. It's a 64 Bonneville and kind of doing the Thruxton treatment on it, which you can see with the long exhaust and I have an Avon fairing up front. We'll show more of this later, but I've been working on these Amal, pronounce it however you want. I always say Amal, probably wrong, but monobloc carbs, which, they can be kind of tricky. And I was trying to tune them. I just have gotten it to run a few times and trying to get a nice idle, and I just could never get an idle. It would either be too high or just die, and so I naturally started messing with the pilot jet setting and actually changed out a couple of pilot jets themselves down here. Kind of fiddling with everything on the monobloc. When it would do this erratic behavior, I also thought about, which you can't see on this side, but the float bowl back here. Well, maybe the float level's too high. Monoblocs have that sort of reputation of being too high on the float, the gas level within the float chamber. So worked on that, took some steps to kind of mill down the jet holder on the lathe so I could lower that. Just, a lot of ways, and I'm sure many of you can relate, you're sort of chasing your own tail, just going in circles. And again, I got it to where it would start better. I got it where it would idle at times, but then it would sort of lose the idle. So finally, this is kind of laughable now, but I finally pulled off the whole throttle cables and slides and the whole 9 yards, which you can see down here. But finally I got to looking at the throttle cables, and I realized on this right side one, the one for this one actually, well, the darn thing was it was dragging, and you can feel it as you take it out and you have it free here. No, there's quite a bit of resistance here. This should not be the case. This should just be smooth and slick and not do this. So, wow, it's one of those moments where you're kind of thinking, well, surely this is, and that would hold the slide up, and it explains the behavior that I've been experiencing. And it's just a matter of finally taking the time to unhook all the stuff down here, take it out, and just really get to the bottom of it. And it's a mental state when you suddenly think, no, it's got to be tuning, it's got to be the pilot jet, it's got to be the wrong slide, it's got to be the needle position, and you get a little bit locked in on that kind of thinking, and sometimes it's damn near impossible to free yourself up from that. So in taking this bad cable off, and really seeing, hey, wait a minute, this is way too much resistance. I'm not exactly sure why. I have a feeling that because of the way that the throttle cables run through this area of the tank, especially this is, as some of you may recognize, this is a 4-gallon European or home market tank. Sometimes, it's kind of a tight bend up here to get the throttle cable to run up if you take them on the inside of the tank, which that's going to be something I'm going to kind of think about here. Is that really what I want to do? So I bought a couple of new throttles from the great folks at the Bonneville shop. And I went ahead and bought the Doherty cables, which are made in England. And, you'd think they're the closest to OEM, and maybe they were in the day. But they cost a bit more than some of the other ones that are available. So I thought, since we're going to this much trouble, let's try to get it right. And I've got those on here now. But just one more thing I was seeing is right up here at these sort of ferrules, hard to say, that allow it to go into, in this case, an Amal throttle. When I would do the sort of the slide check to make sure they're bottoming, I would see a little bit of slack appear right here. And, you know, that's really another kind of a big hint something's wrong. You should not see slack appear in the cable. That means that the slide back here is not seating all the way down in this part of the carb. So again, it was another little hint that I should have paid attention to. But now I've got the Doherty throttle cables running here just on the outside, and what I immediately noticed was, wow, I'm not sure, and I've been riding these a long time, I'm not sure I've ever felt a throttle this smooth. It's funny. I'm not sure I've ever felt that. And if you come down here, you'll see the slides. You can see them kind of going up and down. I've never seen that smooth, which is a great sign. But I want, part of the reason I'm making this video is just to let you know that I used this product. I was just trying to think, you know, what's the best way to lubricate both the throttle housing, you know, some of the cable, maybe some in the adjuster area, and certainly down here at the slides. And I've just started thinking, you know, anything you put in there that's liquid or oil or oily, you know, these bikes get dirty, just sucking the air through them, the pollutants, and, you know, just in general road use. Anything wet you put in here, any kind of oil, you know, some will swear by WD-40. I've never really liked it, but, you know, there's lots of different oil. Lithium grease is great, but you're going to attract dirt, and it's going to get gritty, and it's going to potentially get into the carb, into the throttle housings, throttle sleeves. And, you know, so I thought, well, what could I try? And I gave this a shot. It's this blaster stuff. I think I got this at AutoZone. But it's Graphite dry lubricant. And I've put that, you know, inside the housing here, as much down, touching where the inner cable braided line touches the outer jacket. And I've tried to sort of apply it, you know, everywhere I could, even down in here. It kind of comes out as black, and it looks kind of damp, but it dries very quickly and leaves a graphite film. And I think, again, that's part of the reason. I think the stuff works. I'm feeling this just incredibly smooth action. So next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some of that dry lubricant in here as well. And again, just to try to get these so they will snap to the bottom position easily without any resistance, which should allow us to get a really nice idle setting and get a true adjustment on this pilot jet setting right here. And at least have a better chance of determining what the engine needs rather than fighting to overcome this draggy cable, which again, should have caught it, but you know, it's not always, there are certain assumptions you make with an engine, and this was one I made, that this thing is okay. These were new. This was brand new cable. So I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that this will address the problem. But I have to say, no, I get no no money, no advertising from these guys. But this stuff looks pretty good for this application. So probably more to come. I'll try to keep you posted. All right, I've got everything back together. As you can see, the cable coming in. I've reassembled the monoblocks with the slides and everything in place, and still getting that very good action. Let me just raise and lower these quickly, and boy, you can hear that snap as the slides. Oh, maybe I can even show it here. Not sure if you can see that down in there, but you can see, that's just a great sort of freeness of the cable to come down that quickly and be that responsive. I've also adjusted the slack right here, so that there's right now there's only, like, I'd say a 1/16 of an inch or so slack, because that will change a little bit as we adjust the slides up and down to get a good idle. So this may have to go up or down, and then we'll readjust the throttle cables for enough slack without, you know, being sloppy. So anyway, I'm still kind of a believer in this graphite spray, and I'll continue to test this. I don't know if anyone else has tried this. Let me know. The other thing you might notice that I've done is to try to get this cable to come off of the top of the carb and not bend and add resistance or friction to the cable inside. I've made this kind of a rig, you could call it, where I've just got a piece of fuel hose and a clamp, and then in the where the choke, I don't run chokes on this bike, where the choke would come, I've just taken a cable adjuster and added a stud. I actually JB welded that on there, and then tie wrapped it so that it holds this up. It can still kind of move and flex. And then right now, this throttle cable just comes up here beside the tank, which doesn't look that great, but again, going with a kind of a racer look, I'm just going to try it to see again if it'll address and help this idle situation. And I'm calling it a racer look. You know, it's kind of a kludge, but we'll try it. But you know, you can't argue with that. How quickly you're getting this response. I mean, that's just really nice. Like I say, among the nicest I've ever seen. So anyway, feedback in the comments if you've done something different. I'm going to go with this, and we'll move on to the next problem. Hopefully not.